Sinon, ça marche pas. C'est de la chance. Hi, Haider. Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. How are you?
Good, slightly nervous sitting here with cameras in front of us, but
I think also the ceiling is pretty impressive. It's making it a bit more formal.
the whole space is impressive. This is absolutely my favorite corner in the house. It feels very grand, and strangely, it's never been used during the shows. So
Oh, there's never been a show here?
it's been a show over there, but never here in this space. Well, the mirrors, the reflections of the walls. It's beautiful.
I'm very excited to be sitting here with you today. So, I have a very open question, maybe not so open. Who is Haider Ackermann?
Well, I'm still trying to figure that one out. I do believe that you know your life, you're still in search of yourself until your last dying day. So, where am I? I bloody don't know. I'm just this person who's trying to do a good job in search of beauty, in search of moments that would make my heart beat a little faster and make me alive.
It's a journey.
It's a journey. It's been so far a wonderful journey with very bright moments and some of those which were helpful as well. So yeah, it's been good. So far so good.
So far, so good. I like this sentence.
Yes.
How do you feel at Jean-Paul Gaultier at the moment? Do you feel home already?
Well, yes, I do feel home because the team here was so embracing this moment and embracing me, and they made me feel welcome immediately. You know, the house of Jean-Paul Gaultier is all about generosity, and it really reflects by the people who are working here. We've been working with Jean-Paul for many, many years. So yes, I immediately felt home, and to be a guest and to accept this honor, there was an evidence somewhere.
An ease
yes.
to the whole thing.
So everything is so smooth so far until the 25th.
Sure, it's going to be smooth by then as well.
A bit nerve-wracking, but no, you know, it's really exciting. It's exciting for me as for the house, and to have those kind of collaboration, those kind of dialogues and exchange between two persons or two houses. It wakes up a lot of curiosity, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, it opens the dialogue.
Yes.
A lot.
Yeah.
So I asked you, who is Haider Ackermann? And I'm a firm believer that everything is rooted in childhood. We're all, I'd say, kids at heart, even if sometimes we tend to take more time to discover the kid inside of every one of us. Do you have a nostalgic childhood memory that you'd feel comfortable sharing with me?
But you know, it's strange that you say that this whole journey of your childhood and to creativity, because being here in a haute couture house, you know, my childhood, as you might know, I lived in Arabic countries, and it was very couturesque. You know, when all the women are veiled, and then suddenly, as a child, you were the only one who was allowed to be with the ladies. So when you enter in weddings, they would take the veils off, and then you have an orgy of colors, of gold, of shining. It was a couture.
Yeah, it's grand.
So it's very,
It's
very
grand,
grand.
yeah.
So actually, it all related to them. So yeah, it's a journey. It's a wonderful. But yeah, so of course you had this in those countries where I was. The mystery of the woman behind her veils was something that I wanted to discover, and it wakes up so much curiosity that you just want to understand them all. So I'm sure it has to do with why I became a designer. But then I live in northern countries, and there was a lot of snow, and I remember dressing up my little brother, and all I wanted to hear was the sound of the fabric in the snow. So he had to run with massive dresses in the snow to just, for me, hearing the whispers of the fabric.
You've been an instrumental figure of menswear and women's wear. You're a big figure in fashion.
Thank you.
And you kept, I think, a low profile throughout the whole journey. You've been quite discreet, with, I think, more recently, very key appearances with people that your relationship to them feels very human. I think of Tilda Swinton, who's a good friend of yours, Timothée Chalamet, who's, I'm sure, a muse in many ways. Would you say this Jean-Paul Gaultier collaboration marks like a new cycle for the Ackermann story?
I don't know. I think it's a continuity. I think, first of all, I've always remained quite silent. You know, I'm coming from the Belgium school, which is quite where we talk a lot about discretion. And due to my childhood, where we live in those countries, discretion is absolutely a must. And I do believe that discretion is elegance. And we live in a world nowadays, everyone is screaming so loud, that to be more the quiet one it gives you a sense of freedom. Also because nobody has to be aware of all you're doing and all your steps. I don't think that's the most interesting part. Especially now with all those reality shows you have, and and that everybody's throwing out their emotions out there. I think to pull back is not such.
Is it a way to stay in control in a way?
It's a way to control, and it's a way to protect yourself, and it's a way. It would be absolutely a bore if everyone knew my life.
That's true. I mean, you have to keep. I think.
My life is not boring.
No, I'm sure. I'm sure about that point.
Yeah, I don't want to. Perhaps I might be too selfish, but I don't want to share everything. There's no necessity to share everything. I like to be in that kind of shadow, and Jean-Paul Gaultier is a house which is much more visible, much more out there. Monsieur Gaultier is very comfortable. There's also a shyness and a comfort. Monsieur Gaultier is very at ease with people, which I'm not immediately. As you can see, I like just doing my work and being in the shadow.
I feel like creativity thrives in intimacy. It's very important.
Yes, and it's something that I've always been searching for. I like to work with my little team. I just love them. I just like to be between my walls.
To resource a little. I remember watching an interview you did for Vogue Greece. You said the exchange between men and women is a very interesting space, and when you put a men's jacket on a woman, suddenly you start to feel her fragility and her strength at the same time. At the moment, Gaultier as a house is at the forefront of many conversations that have been open for many years, but that are quite relevant in today's discourse. Gender fluidity, it's part of the Gaultier heritage. Which message will this couture collection aim to send? And how are you planning on exploring this interesting gender space?
But the difference is, first of all, Monsieur Gaultier started all this conversation years ago. In 1994, he was already busy talking about gender fluid, which is the item nowadays. It's not a subject that really touches me personally. I'm much more interested in the exchange between a man and a woman and the romance about it, the fact that you want to wear the jacket of your girlfriend because you can smell her, you can touch her, you have those memories. So it's all more related to emotion than anything else. Right. So a woman in a men's jacket or in a men's suit gives her some sensuality, even more sexuality. So I like those kind of games, but I've never really, myself, I never played with gender fluid. It was much more about love than anything else. I love to carry the sweatshirt of the person I'm in love with.
There's a charm to it. I feel like it's also probably a very cultural thing.
Control.
It's a cultural thing. It's a way for you to, express affection. And there's a
tendency to it, and it's
it's very tender.
Yes,
so like
absolutely.
Where someone's jumper. At the moment, I feel like the fashion space is very collaborative.
But sorry, to get back to your gender fluid, of course, and recently, because you mentioned Timothée before, we did this Venice moment where he was in a backless, the red suit. And there again, it was not talking about gender fluid. It was just like, how much can you put a certain feminine side out there? Why are women only allowed to wear naked bag and not men, but staying masculine at the same time?
Yeah,
it is not embracing it is embracing your femininity, but it's not about gender fluidity.
Right. It's more about questioning the core of the code.
Exactly, and the game that he and I played at that moment was, we were very aware of what we were doing, and we were very aware that it would be questioned. And that questioning is the most interesting part. Certainly when you're in fashion, there are reactions to it. And we open dialogue even more than was existing already. So I think that's interesting. I think that's what's happening with La Maison Gaultier for many years.
Yeah, I think that red suit started many conversations.
There were many podcasts about it, and I think that I'm quite proud about it, that it's evoked something and it triggered something, and because also the person he is and getting so much attention. He's 26. You can do it now, not a few years from now. So enjoy and embrace it. You have this moment in your life where you can just do it, so just go for it. Whether people like it or not, the question is going to be erased, and that's the interesting part.
Also, I feel like it makes people bond. Like, I've discussed this red suit with many of my friends. We've all had diverse opinions on whether it was shaking a code or if it was a statement in itself. Like, when I first saw it, I didn't look too much into it, as in I didn't want to give it meaning necessarily. It was just a man with a backless suit, and I think there was like a whole aura to it that was very charming. And it also felt, I want to say, somehow accessible, because exploring that space, especially in menswear, can be a little intimidating. I would be intimidated to show up in a backless red suit. So there was something about it that was very organic, it didn't feel forced at the moment.
No, but look at Iggy Pop and Keith Richards back in the days, and David Bowie's, all of them, they just were playing, and it was playful, and perhaps this is what we need now.
Yeah.
Certainly after the time we have been going through, let's just have a good moment. Yes, it's game time.
So at the moment, I feel like the fashion space is extra collaborative. It's collaborations left, right, and center about everything and anything. And I feel like with what's happening at Gucci at the moment, it kind of aims to reunite fashion under a common roof that feels healing. There's an element about it that feels very community. Did you ever think you'll get to express your creativity in such a new way? And why Jean-Paul Gaultier?
I was always dreaming to have dialogue with people. It's been something that's been haunting my mind for a long time. But in my previous situation, with the company I was working with, they were not open for that. They preferred me to concentrate on myself. But I think when you have a conversation with someone, it can only be richer. You learn more about yourself, actually. It's a very selfish matter, because this whole questioning, you will be much more aware of what you're doing, what your taste is,
right,
and what you dislike. So, yeah, I'm here at Jean-Paul Gaultier now. I love doing this. I did just before something else, sportswear. It's interesting. It moves you forwards. You only go onwards and upwards.
We'll talk about the sportswear in a minute. I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
I feel like couture has been the least collaborative space in fashion across the years because of the legacy, the heritage. I think it's also a very stiff space in a way, which has its charming, ways.
It's more playful than prêt-à-porter.
It is, but I think from as an external viewer, you're more likely to be probably intimidated by couture than by a ready-to-wear tuxedo or so. Why do you think couture has been the least collaborative space so far?
Because it's a very exclusive world, and exclusivity, sorry, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing. We discussed it before. I think that being exclusive, being not reachable for everyone, evokes desire. And nowadays, everything is reachable. So we kill all the desire in the world,
right,
which I think is really a shame. So this very preciousness and exclusivity, it elevates everything. And it makes you dream. And Lord, do we need to dream nowadays. So yes, I do think it's very important.
The whole element of desire.
Yes.
That has to be captured.
Absolutely. And therefore those collaborations might not have been easy in that segment of fashion. And it's a very personal thing, it's a very, when you work on it, it's so precise, it's so by the millimeter, by the centimeter, it's a very selfish world.
It is.
And that's fantastic.
But surprisingly, it's also the world where you get to share the most, probably. I don't think it's that selfish, I'm sure.
Yeah, but you're even more focused on yourself and more focused on the work, because it's just a few silhouettes and it's much more coordinated, much more controlled.
It's articulated.
Yes, much more articulated. So you're very focused.
And so you recently presented a collection with streetwear label Filam.
Yeah.
And now you're moving on to couture, which are most probably at polar opposites creatively.
And not totally either.
Which is what I want to hear from you. How do you collide both words?
All about bodies, about shoulders, about neck, about muscles, about standing straight, about a certain port, I don't know, the way you hold yourself. Whether it's in sport or whether it's in haute couture, you need to have a way of...
the way you stand, the way you present yourself.
The way you present yourself. Let's sit straight.
That's what I was trying to do. You made me self-conscious now, so I had to fix my posture.
So it's not that far extent from each other, because everything is very body conscious. And to do those exercises at the same time, it inspired me in haute couture and inspired me vice versa in sports world. So the exchange, although my nights were quite
the centerpiece is the body, and then it spreads.
But you learn all the techniques from sportswear, which affect the work that you do in haute couture and vice versa, and the colors of haute couture that you might bring in sportswear. So that whole exchange has been really, really nice. Exhausting, but nice.
Do you think you could be as comfortable in a sportswear piece as you'd be in a couture piece? Is there even an aim to be in the first place?
I never dreamt of doing fashion. I dreamt of doing haute couture. Due to my past, due to what I look up to, it's a prolongation of what I ever wanted to do. Sports was something new. But I enjoy those games.
Two different games, similar rules.
Two different games. And before, all those years I've been so focused on myself and just be able now to have a bigger play field.
Right.
It's
More freedom.
yes, total freedom.
So we spoke about heritage a little. Our childhood is extremely impactful in the way creativity is delivered, perhaps. I know you're originally Colombian.
I am.
You spent your childhood across several countries, including Ethiopia, Chad, Algeria. I'm curious to know how much of that cultural heritage translates into design. Is it a very conscious process, or sometimes you surprise yourself with references that you didn't even know were in here to start with?
You know what? You can only draw who you are. So all of this, it's a part of you. And sometimes it's coming back into your work, but it all has to stay very vague. You don't want to take things on the first degree. So yeah, it's all anchored in me. It's me, it's a part of me. It's this combination of, you know, the Flemish, very discreet, with the orgies of colors in southern countries. It's a clash, and that's why I think sometimes the collection might not be always understandable, because I put lots of clash. They're all kind of different worlds in one, but that's what we are nowadays, anyway, each of us.
Gautier is known to reference and celebrate culture a lot throughout his collections, in folkloric ways sometimes in less louder ways, sometimes a lot less. Would you say in that creative space it is kind of a common ground that you both have and leverage differently?
Well, he's certainly more generous. He's got certainly more sense of humor than I do. He's more open and much more closed. Yes, there's a big clash. I mean, when we do interviews together, he's so at ease while I'm so introverted. But you know, we have a love for women, both of us. I mean, he adores women, and so do I. So we do have many common grounds. And so it's going to be very interesting what's going to happen on the 25th, I hope. I just would like at the end of the day, at the end of this journey, that he would look back at it and that he would be proud of. It's kind of a love letter to him, what we're going to do. What each designer has been doing previously as well.
Celebratory.
Yeah, which is important.
Yeah.
Nowadays, more than ever.
We spoke about many things. There's so much more I want to know, but I feel like mystery is necessary to kind of keep the desire until this collection finally comes to life in front of us. I have a last question for you.
Tell me.
I know it's pressure time. I mean, I did say you didn't have a lot of time left, but when the whole pressure is over, how does Haider Ackermann release pressure?
Probably in the arms of the person I love. That's, I hope, we're going to do, and just surround myself with my friends and go to the countryside and just have a blast in front of the fireplace, dancing till dawn. No, you know what, I'm going through such a wonderful moment. I don't think about the day after, I just think about the continuity. And since I've been more silent the last 2 years, it's been such a wonderful journey now. So I do want to embrace everything which is coming my way.
Every single moment.
Every single moment.
Haider, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you
I'm
so much.
so happy that I finally got to meet you. And thank you so much for your time and taking the time to meet me today.
And I see you the 25th.
I will be there.
Okay, good. Merci.
Merci.